Okay, and we are live. Okay, I'm just gonna check. Hang on a little bit. Make sure that everyone, if you could hear me, give me a thumbs up. So I know you guys. We've got people coming in, flowing in right now. Give us some hats. Give us some likes. So I know you guys are present with me and Joanne right now. I will be bringing her on very, very soon. But first thing first, hello everyone. Hello to the people who are viewing it from this part of the world. It should be 9:30 for me, 8:30 for some of you guys, maybe in Indonesia, and around the region. I just saw Patricia come on. Hey Pat. So nice to see so many of you guys. And I also know that a lot of our American friends and friends from all around the world, Young Living family is just jumping in on to view this. So very, very quickly, my name is Kai. If I've not met you before, hello. And I'm based in Singapore. So we started this series this week, celebrating Gary. And it's just a very simple idea. It's been 2 years since Gary has left, and I think all of us have many stories, many things that we miss about this great man. And the idea was just so simple, to bring together a bunch of people that have worked alongside with him, have traveled with him, have watched his greatness, been in his presence, and really just to share these stories. Stories are so powerful because it's not just something that's made up, it's real, it's emotional, and it's able to help us, especially those of us who've not met Gary before. It's able to help the people begin to connect to what Young Living is about. Because if you don't already know yet, this is not one of your normal essential oil company. You probably think that we're a little bit crazy, but there's a good reason, because of the guy who started it all. He's got great vision, he's got great foresight, and you're gonna hear all about it through tonight. It will be Joanne, and we've already had a couple of sessions with different people like John Wetton, Nikki Davis, Todd Lauren Walker. These are incredible people that shared their stories with us, okay? So I hope that if you're new to this entire series, please scroll through the page, look out for these interviews. They are such gems. You will love it. Just love playing it and just hear these stories, okay? Now, tonight's guest, okay, I'm super excited to have her live with me. So for once, somebody is in the same time zone as me. Before that, we had all the Americans. So on a very, very formal note, she is one of the Royal Crown Diamonds, one of our top leaders in the company. But also on a very personal note, um, she's someone I call my silver sister. So we have a little silver sisters group because in 2012, when we got to travel for our silver retreat, some of you might have already seen it on my Facebook post.
Are you gonna go back
That
today?
What happens is it's tiny back then. It's like 30 people. We get to do rafting with Gary. He makes breakfast for us. So we get to just have intimate, close sessions with Gary. And Joanne was right there. So I remember her as that feisty young little girl. Well, it's like she's just, I'm always watching how she's just like closely following Gary with her camera, ready to take pictures, ready to write notes. She's always well prepared because she has such a hunger to learn from this guy. I think you will hear more stories from her, but I think when she realized how powerful the Young Living essential oils are, she realized that this man has tons of formulas, secrets, legacies that she must learn. And one of the most amazing things that I've always felt is Joanne is very city girl, a little bit like me, yeah, Hong Kong, Singapore. But she's just completely fallen in love with farm life. Like, she adores being on the Young Living farm. She adores spending time with Gary, just working in the dirt, working the machineries. If Gary tells her jump on a tractor or anything that's like humongous and drive it, she will do it. And she's taken on such a heart of Gary's. It's really just quite amazing watching her. So without further ado, I'm gonna quickly unmute this lady and we're gonna bring her on. Say hello to everyone, Joanne.
Hi, what an introduction. Thank you, Kai. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here with everybody. Such an honor to be invited to share my story. However, I do believe that we actually have loads and loads of people who are like me in Young Living. And there is so many more people who have stories like mine or even more amazing than mine. I'm just one of them, very, very many people. And I keep thinking, oh my God, there's such a long list of people that I want to add to this list, right? So maybe next year we're going to do this together, and then we're going to invite so much more people. We're going to run like a 10-day thing, right? Because just come to mind is like there's Anna Maya, there's Sherry Ross, there's Marcella, all these Kathy Farmer, Vicky Offa. Oh my God, their stories go back way back 20, 25 years, some of them, right?
I know.
And I've only been in Young Living 9 years. That's like oldie already nowadays, right?
I know. In fact, I have to say that. I mean, all the speakers ask me, like, where do you pick us? I'm like, that's so hard to tell you guys because if I tell you guys, I'm like, I got all these lineup, all these wonderful people that you mentioned, right? I would love to go on and on and on with this series. And like you say, it's like we can talk forever, just these stories. But I do have to say that for the first group that, like this very, very first time that I'm making this happen. And like you say, maybe next year we'll do it together. I'm quite sure that there was a very perfect divine reasons for this group. Yeah, because the names, I told the speakers, names just came so easily and you guys just jumped on board and said, yes, so ready. And it just flowed in terms of, I didn't even really pick the dates for you guys. You guys kind of like just flowed in so nicely. And when I look at it and looked at the lineup, I just love it. Yeah. Joanne, I know you've prepared tons of pictures, slides for us today to give us like a visual, like really see what life was like around Gary. So I'm going to pass it on to you so that you can just get rolling. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Kai. So it's really interesting how I've been watching the past 3 days. I know those people pretty well. Like I know John, Todd, Lauren, Nikki. Really, they're really, really dear friends of mine too. So it was really amazing to see their side of Gary. And I'd like everybody to, after today and probably tomorrow, because I know Kai has a surprise for all of us at 12 noon, uh, Asia, Hong Kong and Singapore time. I don't know what time that is in the US, but after you've tuned in, I really would like you all to find the common ground of what everybody said, right? Because when I was listening on, I was like, oh my God, I was going to talk about that. Oh my God, I'm going to talk about that. And there's so much similarities between every single person who has interacted with him. The most amazing thing is I think everybody felt very similarly, loved by him as much as feeling like the only person in the room, right? I think all of you have heard that so many times this week already. So because people who've heard me talk know I can talk nonstop for 2 hours. And I was just talking about Bloom the other day, and I was just gonna show open unboxing the Bloom, and it took me an hour. I talked about so many other stuff. So I will share my screen. I've prepared a little video that I showed a few times over the past 2 years after Gary has passed. And I've shown it at a presentation in China when we opened it there. I showed it last October in the Philippines first anniversary, and I don't remember where else I've shown it. Originally I made it in Chinese. Now there's a subtitles. I'll share screen first, okay? And let's just start with this story about Gary Young, okay? I think a picture speaks 1,000 words. Before I start talking about him, I would like to let the people who don't actually know Gary see a little bit of where he came from and how Young Living started, okay? Why is it not playing? Okay, all right, so I made this video 2 years ago, and I've looked at it 1,000 times because I have to put like subtitles in the beginning in Chinese, and then I have to put subtitles in English when I made it for Philippines last year. But still, every time I look at it, I still cry. I think from how you've all heard the people who've talked about him in the past few days, I think we've all cried while we were preparing for this. Especially yesterday, Lauren was saying how she doesn't actually cry that much. I think you've all sort of get a feeling of how big an impact this person was to all of us. So I'll start by showing you the kind of impact that he had on me. I've got prepared some videos that I took. These videos I took at my Silver Retreat 2012. I joined Young Living in 2011. The first time I met him was in the Singapore opening in 2011. Yes, 2011, October, right, Kai? And that's the first time I met Kai. It was outside the Singapore old office, and we were all standing there with Francis Fuller, Patricia Gui. All of you are listening in now, and there was Kai, there was Sheena, there was Fee Bowie, and Nigel, and I remember we were very excited. We were putting oils on, and at 9 o'clock, if I remember correctly, or 8 o'clock sharp, everybody was very excited. They're all saying, "Oh, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming." And I remember the door of the elevator opened. I don't know if you remember that, Kai. He walked out in his black suit, red tie. And that was the first time I knew what the word gratitude meant. I had this overwhelming feeling of gratitude because the products that he made saved my life, saved my daughter's life. You know, all of those I can talk another 2 hours about, but that was the feeling that I could feel. And I remember wanting to tell him and thank him how the products have impacted my life. And since then, I have seen so many people who fly all the way from Hong Kong, from Asia, to go to convention just to thank him, just to let him know that the products that he made has helped them so much, so tremendously. And I'm sure a lot of you who are listening in now have the same feeling. Anyway, so this was my Silver Retreat, and I came into Young Living not knowing that it was a network marketing company. I got my first check not knowing why they sent me money, okay? And when I knew that it was the network marketing company, I was like, okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as the products are good, I'm still gonna tell my friends about it. And very quickly I became silver. And then I was invited to this thing called Silver Retreat, and they paid for me to fly over, and my flight was like delayed, and I couldn't catch the flight. I was supposed to arrive like 2 days later. It was a Friday night, I remember. It was a Friday night, and the whole thing ended on a Sunday, like lunchtime. My flight was late, and they were gonna push me until I can only arrive at Coeur d'Alene on Sunday. And I put my foot down at the airport, and I really made them put me on the next flight. And I made it there just in time to this welcome dinner. I remember I changed my clothes in the car. I put my makeup on in the car, and I got there just in time. And the reason why I'm telling everybody of the obstacle that I got there is because Young Living, I found out that Young Living, it's a personal growth journey. And whenever there's a chance for you to have a personal growth opportunity, you will be met by obstacles. If you give in to those obstacles and not get out of your comfort zone and not push through, you won't grow. This is something that Gary has taught me, and I've realized it from his behavior. So anyway, I'm gonna start the video, this one. So I entered this place and I saw this guy. Of course, I met him already because this is already the third time I've seen him. So Singapore opening, 2011 October, and then convention. and then Silver Retreat. This was 2012 August. So I know that he was very young, okay? And he was
yes, please.
Just go and pick up the empty ones on the table and bring them over.
So there he was, the CEO of the company making me a Ningxia cocktail. And then this was the next morning. We all went to the farm, and this is Gary's famous pancake.
Are these the ones that were in the packaging that was at last convention? Yeah. I just purchased that because I need to do another thing. Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised when he was making cocktail and making pancake for us. You know, this is the einkorn pancake that you've been hearing so much about in the past few days. And coincidentally, I actually prepared these two videos before this Monday. So I had no idea that everybody else was going to talk about these einkorn pancakes, okay? So, but before I arrived at Silver Retreat, I had been studying this guy for a long time. So I wasn't surprised when he was making me drinks and making us breakfast. Because I know this is a guy that would get himself into the dirt and do everything himself first. And that's something that I also have learned. He's really impacted me on that. It's because I have since realized that if you want to be a good leader, you got to first go in and do it first. You cannot, not even being a leader, I think just being a person. I think he has been such a good role model that if you want to be a good person, if you want to be productive, you got to jump in and do it first, regardless of what everybody else thinks, whether there's anybody else who's doing it. And so you're always going to be. So I started being the first person to do everything. And then somehow people would follow, right? And it's just really phenomenal. And I thought you guys would enjoy seeing him make pancakes. All right, okay. And this, Kai, you probably remember, was he brought us, instead of putting us in boardrooms and hotel rooms, he brought us river rafting. That was the first year that he brought silver leaders out to river raft. There were 38 of us. We were the smallest ever Silver Retreat group. The year before us, there were 100 people because Patricia was in that group. And our group was the smallest because we were the first year that you had to make silver three months in a row in order to qualify. And there were 38 of us, I think. And in the river, halfway through, there was a tree falling down, blocking our way. He jumped off. He brought his chainsaw from inside his, not boat, the raft. And you would probably have heard Jared talk about this too. He pulled out the raft, the chainsaw, and we were like, who brings the chainsaw to river rafting? Apparently, he actually scouted the river the night before, the day before. So he knew there was a tree. So he knew that he had to remove the tree. And it was the first to jump in and remove that tree. And everybody just followed. So see, he's the guy who does everything first. And I thought this photo was amazing because this was taken in Ecuador in my gold retreat. It was the first time I was in Ecuador. And this was taken, and I remember when we got there, they set out chairs for us to sit. And there were like stools, benches, and then there were chairs. The chairs were in the front. So obviously you could tell that they set out chairs for Gary and Mary and maybe the boys and maybe the executives. But when we got there, Gary sat on the side. And we were supposed to watch the children perform. Gary sat on the side. He insisted that he didn't want to sit on those main chairs. He insisted that he would call us the distributors. These are for the distributors. You sit here. And we're like, no, Gary, you sit it. No, it's okay. I can watch from the side. So he was sitting on the side. And when he was watching the children perform, you can tell from his face how fulfilled he was. I'm a little bit lost of words. You could tell that he felt so satisfied is not the word. Maybe it's fulfilled. So full his heart. Because you probably heard that Nikki on Tuesday was talking about how he built the school, why he built the school, and what the school is about. So I'm not going to go through that anymore. But because of what Nikki said, I decided that this was a really good photo to show everybody. This was the kind of love, because Nikki showed the photo that he was congratulating one of the kids graduating. But this was the photo when he watched the children perform. And I don't remember whether I shot this photo or John did, but I thought it spoke 1,000 words. And he was so humble. And you could see that everybody was lining up thanking him. Although he didn't speak a word of Spanish, but you could see how grateful the people were, the kids and the parents, because if it weren't for him, his vision, those children would not have the privilege to be in the school. And how he treated the teachers in that school. I can talk for an hour about the Young Living Academy and what it has done, but I think this photo really speaks a lot. And oops, what happened to the photos? Ooh, okay. Well, obviously this is not, well, anyway, these photos are just prompts for me so I can remember what to say. So this photo was taken in 2013 Winter Harvests. That time, I think, okay, so I went up to St. Mary's, and Gary wasn't there, because back then we didn't have the distillery in the Highland Flats. So everybody who has to harvest goes to St. Mary's. And so I spent 3 days in St. Mary's, and then I realized that Gary was actually in Highlands, cutting trees, harvesting trees. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna spend half the time there too. So on the Wednesday, at lunchtime, Marcy, who actually cooks for us, and it's in the same kitchen where Gary was cooking the icon pancake just now for Silver Retreat. So I was in St. Marie's farm, and at lunchtime, and Marcy said, "Who wants to go to Highland?" So I raised my hand, like, I'm going. And so, okay, wait outside the door in half an hour. So I ran into my room, grabbed everything, threw everything in my suitcase, grabbed it, lugged it through the snow, and got onto my ride. My ride was a truck, was a semi-truck that was supposed to bring the chips down from Highland Flats to St. Mary's. And I rode in that truck in the snow and the dark for, I think, 4 hours. And when I got there, it was this tent, everybody was having dinner. I'm gonna cut the story really short, and then fast forward the next morning at breakfast, I walked up to Gary, and this was already, so, okay, the first time I saw Gary was was Singapore opening. And then it was Convention 2012, and then Silver Retreat 2012. In September 2012, he came to Hong Kong with John. Just for 2 days, he taught a workshop. Oh my God, I have to tell that. He taught a workshop, there were about 30 people. And then at night, he insisted on doing a business talk. And I told him, no, don't do a business talk. Nobody's gonna listen to the business. And he insisted on doing the business talk, and there were 5 of us, okay? There were 5 of us in that business talk. And he still talked, but eventually, obviously, it went to a product thing. So we had this privilege of just being there, 5 of us with him. And September, and then that was the next year in January. This was January 2013, yes. So I already know him, and he already knew me. So at breakfast, I walked up to him and I said, Gary, I came here to learn from you. Can I follow you around today? He looked up and he said, sure, but I've got meetings today, so maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow, you come to me at breakfast. So tomorrow, I came to him at breakfast. That was Friday already, okay? I said, Gary, I'm following you around today. He goes, okay, wait for me in 5 minutes at the back. Okay, so I ran out there in 5 minutes. So I think it was 15, whatever. So I ran out there. I didn't know whether he meant the inside of the back door or the outside of the back door. So I ran back and forth to make sure that I didn't miss him. And eventually it was outside of the back door and he was getting into his semi truck. So I ran to him. He asked me to get in. So I got into his truck with him, just the two of us. I think it was just like 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't remember what time it was. It's really early. And he told me he was saying something, oh, I'm going to get the from, I have no idea what he was saying because he has a really thick accent. So I just kept quiet in the car. And he was talking on the phone. He was telling me stories about him. He was talking about how he was going to sponsor this football game. And then he was talking to me how he can't speak Spanish. He can only say like hola and something very simple that he has already been living in Ecuador for 5 years. And he was like really, really humble guy. And I wasn't overwhelmed. I was just really treasuring that time being with him. And I honestly did not have a lot of questions because a lot of the product questions I could already find by myself. So I was just sitting there listening to him talk. And then I found out that he actually was driving the semi to this parking lot kind of looking thing to pick up a bulldozer. Okay, so I got off and he started driving this bulldozer onto the semi and he started chaining his wheels. And I just stood there and watching him and I was like, is there anything I can help you with? He goes, oh, get out of the. So I opened the thing, I'm like, is this what you want? So yeah, so whatever, right? Okay, so he got the bulldozer into the truck, onto the semi. We got back to the car. We got back onto the truck, and he said, after driving for like 15 minutes, he goes, well, I'm gonna let Joanne, you're gonna have to drive the bulldozer down to the farm for me later on when we get there. I'm like, what? No, I'm not gonna do that. And he goes, there's just two of us here, it's just you and me. So either you drive the cat down to the farm or you drive the semi into the farm. You choose. And I said, you just told me that you don't let anybody drive your semi. And then he said, well, the bulldozer it is then. So I sat there and I'm like, okay, it doesn't seem like you can say no to this guy. So I just sat quietly. Okay, I said, okay, whatever. But know that I've never driven in the snow and I've never driven outside of Hong Kong. So I'm not sure if you want me to be driving that bulldozer. He goes, oh, it's very easy. It's easier than driving a car. Okay. So we got there. I got off the semi. I got onto this bulldozer and he taught me, and it was really easier than driving a car. So here I was driving the bulldozer down the highway in Highland Flats in the snow in the middle of winter. Okay. And it was fun, it was very empowering. And he took out his phone and started recording me and he was laughing because I was going, ah! I was screaming as I was driving the thing. And it was really funny because it was really icy and I was gliding and then I had to pull it back up and then it was gliding and then I had to turn the corner and drive into the farm. And as I was driving on the farm, everybody was clearing and clapping and cheering on because they were all like gigantic 6'5" guys watching this little small Asian woman driving a bulldozer down into the farm. But that was very empowering. That was so empowering that I was ready to take on any big machinery task in the next 9 years of my Young Living career. So since then, I've driven a bulldozer, I've cut down trees, I have driven a chipper, I've driven all the machines on the farm, okay? And since then, I've brought hundreds of people into the farm and hundreds of people have driven bulldozers and cut trees down. So that was an amazing, empowering experience that Gary put me through. And it sort of allowed me to realize that I've got potentials that I didn't know that I had. And as I've written in my book, he saw the potential in me that I never knew I had. And he brought it out. And he believed in me before I believed in myself. And he believed in me so much that I don't think anybody else had believed in me as much as he had. And he really brought out that confidence that I never knew I had. you know what, everybody thinks like, oh my God, Joanne, you're really smart, you're so confident, blah, blah. I'm not confident. I always thought that I was dumb. I always thought that I was stupid. It was only because of Gary. I was courageous to try things that I didn't think I could succeed. It was only because of him. I wasn't afraid to, I wouldn't even use the word fail. Only because of him, I had the courage to try and see every mistake, every failure, or every time I didn't make something work. It was a way to make myself better. It was a way to challenge myself and overcome that challenge and becoming a better person. And I really miss that, because during all that time while I was building the Young Living business, I was seeing him like 6 times a year. And the reason why, and I think a lot of people in Young Living know that I chased him around the world. For those of you who don't know, I have been to about 12 of our farms. I've been to Winter Harvest, I think, 5 times. I lost count. Wherever he was, I wanted to be there, because he just gave me this energy, and he gave me that knowing that I can do anything that I put my heart to. And I really want to bring that back to Hong Kong or Asia, or to anybody who hasn't had the chance to meet him in person and to feel that energy. So after I came back from Silver Retreat and from Harvest, I promised myself, because I know not everybody can have that privilege like I did, to drop everything, my children, my family. And to that, I'm really grateful to Eric that he would allow me to do this. And I promised myself that I'm going to bring his heart to the people who hadn't had the chance to meet him in person. So that's what I do every day. Just remembering what Gary would do. What would Gary do? What would Gary say? I'm sorry, this is... Obviously, everybody knew that I was going to cry. So anyway, so that was the story of my winter harvest, that I drew a bulldozer. And he actually offered for me to drive his semi, but I said no. And also another thing is, you also need to know that he's a person that would never say no to you. Like when we opened Hong Kong, so that year was when the year that he decided that we're going to open Hong Kong. 2013, November was the month that we opened. In fact, the week that I went to Winter Harvest was the week that Tyler Williams landed in Hong Kong. I decided I'm not going to meet Tyler, I'm going to Winter Harvest. Anyway, so, all right, let me show you the next photo. Oh, this photo. This was taken in Singapore, and I don't remember what it was. He was there, and I remember he was there. I was going because we were so close. I don't know if Kai remember what this event was. I can't remember what it was. And this was in a business meeting, like all the builders meeting. And I remember I was already diamond. So this must have been 2014. And I remember Gary has this thing that he calls out to people without letting you know. And he was like talking about sharing our products, how moving, how helping people about it, blah, 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 blah. And it's not really about, meeting quotas or getting commission. It's about sharing. It's about helping people. And then suddenly he goes, Joanne. I'm like, what? And I stood up very quickly, like a good student. And then he said, tell everybody your secret of success, one word. And then I said, love. Literally, this was my face. I was like, huh? Love. Love for the products, love for the company, and love for the people, even for the people that I do not know. And he smiled and he nodded and he goes, yes, that's what's exactly the answer that I was looking for. And this is what builds our company, he said. This is what built our company, and this is what built our business, is the love for the people, and even for the people that you don't know, and knowing that you will have something that can help them. It's what drives this company. And so this was the message that I wanted to bring out. It's about the love. And Gary is always about the love. And when you see him, you will know what I mean. But what you can do now that he's not here, you can look up videos of him that he's talking. When he's talking, you can just really, really feel it. Like there's so many different stories that I could tell, but I've decided on the ones that I'm sharing today. And this was 2015 Winter Harvest. And I think, Kai, this was probably the one that you were with us, right? And Gretchen was here. And I remember that Gary came in on the second day, or we were all standing there at the entrance of the tent. And Gary came in and everybody was greeting him. And he was talking about how he's going to be teaching Raindrop in Croatia. Yes, this was January. Oh no, this is December 2015 or something, or 2014, I don't remember. And then he said, this must be December 2014, because he said, I am going to teach Raindrop in Croatia in March, as he was walking into the tent, and we're all standing there greeting him. And then he pointed to me and he goes, Joanne, you're coming, right? And I looked at him and I go, yes. And in my mind, I was like, I don't even know where Croatia is. How am I going to go to Croatia? And why do I want to go to Croatia? But I did go to Croatia that year. And anyway, the point was, I think Gretchen was about to make crown around that time. I don't remember what rank that she was going to make. And we were saying, and I was telling Gary, I said, Gary, Gretchen nearly made crown last month. And then, you know what, in any other business, because my father is a businessman, and in any other business, you would expect the owner to go, oh, well, cheer on, keep going, you know? No, you know what he said? He said, well, if you can, so we were sort of like all a little bit disappointed, going, yeah, she nearly made it, but she didn't. But you know what he said? He said, if you can made it once, you can made it again. And next time, you're going to make it. And that was so encouraging. Instead of saying, oh, what a pity that you didn't, he said something like, he said it without a doubt. Like it just came out of him that, oh, if you can make it once, you can make it again. That was such an encouraging and non-judgmental and loving way to encourage somebody. And that really stayed with me for until now. Like so now when somebody in my team nearly made a rank but didn't, this is what I would say to them. If you can make it once, you can make it again. If you can do it once, you can do it again. And I just really love the way he talked to us. And I thought I want to share that with everybody. Oh, and this was 2014 in Diamond Retreat. This was actually, I just made Diamond and I was Francis Fuller's guest. I didn't qualify, but I was able to go. And I think the year before, Kai, you went to Oman, right? As Francis Fuller's guest. Oh, what a blessing that was. So I was here at Diamond Retreat, and this is something that I really want to share with you guys. So I have to give you a little bit backstory. So Gary learned how to distill and grow lavender for 5 years in France, in Provence, learning from this guy. His name was Marceau Espieux, and Marceau Espieux has then passed away, I think, if I'm not mistaken, from cancer. And the lady in the white shirt is Madame Espieux, so Marceau's wife, okay? And this seems to be a surprise for Gary. So we were on a road trip and we were on buses and we were on our way to the farm. And somehow we all stopped at this little house, which used to be the old distillery of Marceau. And so Gary used to sleep there and learned how to distill. But since Marceau has passed, it has been, or retired, it has been sold to a couple and they've turned it into a restaurant. So in that little house, there's photos of Gary and Marceau and Mr. and Mrs. Marceau and a little bit of something, right? And so we were all sitting there, like standing outside this little house, this little restaurant, taking photos. And suddenly Mr. Landau, who is Nicolas' father, our French farm, our manager from a French farm. His name is Nicolas Landau. We call him the Lavender Prince in Asia. And the father of Nicolas is Jean-Michel. Oh God, I don't remember his name. I just remember his name is Landau, his last name. So apparently he has brought Mrs. Espier to meet Gary, because Gary hasn't been back to France for a very long time. So this was I had the privilege to record what Gary said when he was surprised by Mrs. Espier's appearance. I'll play this video.
Marcel's wife, Martha, and she's the one that would take care of me while I was here, feed me, make sure I ate. Wash my clothes, iron my clothes. She was my mom.
So you can see, so they're standing there talking for a while. And you could tell that Gary couldn't speak French, and Mary was the one who was translating. And you could see their exchange, how close they were, how grateful Gary was, and how happy Mrs. Esper was to see Gary. And Gary was saying how she's like a mother. She would iron my clothes and wash my clothes and cook for me and take good care of me while I was here. And I studied in Switzerland. I went to school in Switzerland back in the late 80s and early 90s. I have been to France multiple times back in the 80s, and this was probably back in the late 80s and early 90s. And this was probably when he was there, it was the early 90s, right? And I know French people. They don't talk to people who speak English. When I went to France, I had to speak either French or Chinese. I had to pretend that I couldn't speak English. Otherwise, they wouldn't speak to me, because they sort of look down on the people who speak English. And so I was standing there wondering, what happened to this? What did this person do that can have this impact on a small little French couple that they would treat him like his own son? And after that, we traveled on to the farm, and you were there too, Kai. Yes, you were also there, Kai. And remember how they have this makeshift stage, and we were all sitting down, and all these French people, I think they were like the Lavender Grove Association chairman, the ex-chairman of the distillery, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember the names. And all these Frenchmen sitting there on stage, and Nicholas was translating, and Gary was talking. And I saw in the Frenchman's eyes, every single one of them had admiration, gratitude, thankfulness, and love for Gary. And a lot of these people were much older than Gary, so you could tell that they were from, I don't know, they looked like they were in his 70s and 80s, okay, while Gary was in his late 60s, I think. So what did Gary do to allow that growth of relationship and admiration and appreciation and love from these arrogant French people? And what did he do so that they would teach him their life secrets from their family? What was this man? Who was this man, and what did he do? And how did he do it, right? I was so impressed. And it was that love and that truth and that honesty and that authenticity and that humility that really made him so special, and that he could learn from the French so that he can bring us the best and the purest oils, right? And this was the thing that I really wanted to show you. And I could only share with you from a video because I don't think my vocabulary is enough to express what I want to say now. And I hope by throwing in different words and showing you a video, I'd be able to show you that, because this man is way more than any vocabulary anybody could have invented. Words could not describe even the smallest, tiniest little part of how I'm feeling. And I'm sure Kai feels the same way. And anybody who has met him or anybody who was on that trip with us know what I was talking about. So I thought that was really nice, really, really good, really cool to share. And then the next video was he got this harvester, this antique harvester from, that's the guy's name, Jean-Michel. He is, I think, 5th generation lavender grower. He obviously was like best friends with Gary, and he obviously only spoke French, but he had loads of admiration for Gary, and he knew that Gary loved antique machines. So he bought this in an antique sale and a auction, and he modified it so that Gary, you can use it to harvest einkorn. And this is our einkorn field in France. And I just wanted to show all of you that he showed us. He was so proud. He was so happy. And he was so proud. He jumped onto the einkorn machine and he showed us. And after he showed us, he said, who wants to try? And Kai was like, me. And Kai, so I was like 2 seconds slower than Kai. So Kai went on, and then I went on after Kai. It's just great memories. It was great times. So I'll show you how Gary harvests einkorn. And for those who are new to Young Living or who didn't know Gary very well, he really tried to use mostly old ancient ways to harvest our plants. Or, for example, in our lavender farms now, we use sheep as natural weed, weed killer, weeding, to do the weeding of the farm, because the sheep would eat the weeds, but they won't eat the lavender. And they would also, the side effects was they would also naturally fertilize the soil. So that's actually what we do in Young Living. So this was actually the way that we're harvesting einkorn in France. I think they probably have another way to harvest it in the US, in Tabiona and in Mona. But this was what we were doing. And it was just really cool to see him do it. And he really enjoyed every time to show us how to use all the machines. All right, so all of these are a little bit like chop up, because I just have all these ideas that I wanted to show everybody. And this was in, I think it was the same year. It was the Global Leadership Cruise. This was in Santorini. And back then, I think it was 2015, the same year. And back then, selfie stick was not very popular, and we're all doing selfie. And they actually called me the selfie queen of Young Living, because I was actually the person who started all these selfie things in Young Living. So we'd be like taking a lot of selfies, and we started doing the selfies back in that trip, the previous diamond retreat trip in France. So I think this was the same year. And Gary just bought a selfie stick in Santorini, and he was fidgeting with it. He was learning how to take a selfie. It was really funny. And this was Jacob who was holding the selfie stick, because he couldn't really figure out. I was standing there watching him. So I took this photo. So I was standing there watching him. So he's like, how does this work? How does the selfie thing work? Like, I don't seem to be able to put, like, he didn't even know how to switch the fat camera. And it's just really, really cute. So I snapped this photo. I actually later on, I made a copy and I framed it and I gave it to him. I'm so glad I did that. And then when we were going back down to the cruise, when you're in Santorini, you have to take this little boat back to the cruise from the shore. And I was in the same boat with Gary, because we had to walk down this donkey trail. I actually wrote it in my book, and Gary and the two boys ran down really quickly, and I ran after them. And Mary was left behind, and Eric walked with Mary. And so we were on the same boat together. And, you know, in the first generation selfie stick, they didn't have the Bluetooth clicker. They had this this thing that you have to plug into your phone, and they had an adapter that would adapt an Android phone or an iPhone onto it, and he was trying to put the adapter on with the clip, and then but the phone kept falling off, right? And I said to him, I said, no, this is not how you do it. You don't need this adapter. This is for an Android phone. You use an iPhone, you just have to clip it this way. And it goes, oh, so that's how it works. I see. And I remember he was so cute. It was like a little kid. And he was so happy taking selfies on the boat. He was really testing out his thing. It was a really, really sweet memory. And it showed you how eager he was to learn, even at his age. Like, I mean, he's not really good with computers, and he's not really good with, he also wasn't really good at spelling, actually. If you were in Young Living for a long time, you would see that a lot of his presentation had typos in them, but it didn't matter because it was the information that was important, you know? And I just thought this was really a really cute photo to share. And that was really some really sweet memories. Okay, so fast forward, I think this is 2016. Everybody has told you about the snowmobiling experience, and obviously I had a snowmobiling experience with him too. So this
I was really waiting for you to come in to tell us this one.
So I actually prepared this, as I said, before Monday, but I actually only put this last photo that I was sitting with Gary in it. I didn't put in the rest of the photo, but I decided, since everybody talked about the snowmobiling and nobody really had a photo of the snowmobiling from the beginning to the end, so I figured I'd put him in. And because I was actually a bystander. So, all right, let me tell you how this came about. So we were at Winter Harvest. It was a January. So we were at Winter Harvest. I don't remember which year. I think it was 2016. Yeah, it was 2016, because 2016 convention was when he injured his hand and created a whole slew of medical processes for him. So this was 2016, January. And we were at Winter Harvest. And the book, oh, by the way, I have this book here with me. I'm going to show it now, and then I'm going to show it later. This book, this is Mary's book about Gary. This is the second edition. And I'm going to show it again later on. All the photos that I made from the video, I got from this book. And so Mary just came out with the first version of this book. And we brought a bunch to Winter Harvest to be signed by Gary. And when he was signing the book for us, I was saying that, by the way, after Idaho, after here, we're going to fly down to Utah. We're going to have a meeting with corporate, because we were having a lot of issues in Hong Kong. So we had to have a meeting with corporate. And he said, oh, when are you arriving? And I remember it was like a Saturday, it was like a Friday. And I said, oh, we're arriving on Sunday, and we're going to meet at corporate. We have a meeting in corporate on Monday. And he goes, oh, why don't you come to my ranch? Come to Tabiona. And I said, I would love to. He said, I would love to show you the ranch. I said, sure, okay. So Sunday night, the ex-CEO, COO of Young Living, Travis, he's since left, called me and said, hey, Joanne. I said, yeah, as for our meeting tomorrow morning, Gary called me just now and asked if you want to go snowmobiling tomorrow instead. You don't want to go to snowmobiling, right? I said, yeah, I want to go snowmobiling. You don't have the gears, right? You don't have the clothes, right? I said, I can buy them. You really don't want to drive 3 hours up to Tabiona, right? I said, I don't mind. And then he was like, oh, okay. And then I said, yeah, so where do I meet you? He goes, okay, come to corporate at whatever time. I think it's like 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock, we got to corporate, we got into his car, and then we went to buy ski clothes, because I already packed up all my ski clothes. I don't remember where they were. They weren't with me. And anyway, so we got our ski clothes, and then we drove to a place that was 2.5 hours away. And Jared was there, Jacob. So Jacob, Jared, Kevin Pace was there. Kevin Pace was our CFO back then. He's still a consultant for the board. And we got off the car, we got into the semi, and you can see that the first photo there, he was gearing me up. He was putting helmets on me and all of that thing. And I was like, okay, I don't know how to put this on. So he was putting it on me. And then he said to me, there were a fleet of snowmobile. The one that you saw yesterday, or 2 days ago, that Todd was driving. There was a fleet of snowmobile. And Gary said to me, Joanne, I've got the fastest of the fleet for you. And I stood there and I was like, I don't know how to drive a snowmobile. I've ridden in one before, but I don't know how to drive one. He goes, oh, it's easy. It's like a motorcycle. I said, I have never driven a motorcycle. I can't even ride a bike. And he stood there and was like, oh, okay. I think I was very surprised that I can't ride a bike. So and then he turned to Eric and he goes, Eric, then you drive this. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he goes, Joanne, you're right in that, I don't know what you call it. You see in that small photo, it's like, it doesn't have wheels. It has those ones that the wheels that is like a tank, those wheels. I don't know what it's called. So I rode in that with Skylar. I think that's his name, Skylar. And I got into the car. I call it the car right now, okay? Got into the car. It was already 12 noon, okay? Oh, right. And when we were getting ski wear on the way to the snowmobile site, Travis stopped at a gas station and said, Joanne, you might want to get something to eat. So, Joanne, you might want to, I said, no, I don't want any junk food. He goes, no, you want some beef jerky. So I got some beef jerky, and he goes, you want some health bar. So I got some health bar. I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't know, I knew something was up, and he couldn't tell me. So I grabbed some beef jerky, and I grabbed some snack bars. And then I rode into that little car thingy, and I saw Wolfberry Crisp Bar and Ningxia Red, and it was 12 noon. And it didn't look like we were going to lunch. Okay, so anyway, I rode in that, and very quickly the fleets of snowmobile zoomed, right? And I was following straight in this little warm tractor thingy, going bop, 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 bop. And we turned, and it was exactly how Todd mentioned. They zoomed up and out of sight, and when we went over there, everybody was gone. And I could see that Eric was in the ditch, down, all the way there. In this third photo you see, you can see by where Jacob was standing, how deep the snow was. So apparently, I don't know what happened. Eric drove down there, and Gary with his shovel needed to shovel him out. So everybody went in and saved him. So that went on for 3 hours, 4 hours. And I don't remember how many times anybody has got stuck. I remember Kevin got stuck once or a few times. Eric did a few times, I think. I don't remember. It was a blur. And we spent the whole afternoon there. And when, I think it was 4 o'clock, after 4 hours, we went to this plane, gigantic big plane. And we could get off. And we could get off. And I remember Gary said, Joanne, you want to hop on? Oh, Eric is saying it's 20 feet, okay. So Gary said, Joanne, you want to hop on? So I hopped on to his back, and he said, are you ready? I said, yep. And he said, hold on. And I grabbed on dear life, and I heard, woo! And I zoomed. I don't know how fast. I had no idea, because I was falling off the snowmobile. And I didn't dare to open my eyes. I had helmets on. I didn't dare to open my eyes. I just felt very windy. And I felt we were going uphill. It was a big plane, but it was all uphill. It was very wide and all uphill. And I remember feeling, because I had my eyes closed, I was holding on to his shoulders, to his chest, and I had my face on his back, and I had my eyes closed, and I was screaming. I was going, ah! For I think 5 minutes. And I knew if I let go, I would be dropped off, and I don't know where I would end up being. And I remember hearing him laughing and was laughing so hard. And I remember feeling that the snowmobile jumped up and came down. And I just screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed until we stopped. And he was laughing throughout that whole time. I think he was having more fun than I was. I had no idea where we went, but it was exhilarating. Yeah. Okay, so, and then we went back out. Maybe we went in, maybe it was like a 2-hour coming in and a 2-hour coming back out. So, okay, after that, we came back out, and the third photo in the snow was we were about to go out, and Gary fell into that ditch, and he hit a rock, a gigantic rock. So he was the one in the red in there, and Jared was the one in blue, and Skylar is the one in the khaki red jacket, okay? So he got in, and he couldn't come out. I remember they were all expecting him to come out, but he couldn't. So Jared went in, and Skylar went in with a shovel, and somehow they brought him back out. And I heard, because Skylar was the one who was driving the little car that I was in, and I heard Skylar say, "Oh, Gary hurt himself." He couldn't really walk, but he could drive a snowmobile. So I thought, well, maybe he's okay, he could still drive a snowmobile. And so we went back out there, and it was all flat. We had to ungear, is that how you say it? They have to all park the snowmobile back into the trailer truck, and we have to take off all our gears. And because the tractor car thingy was going so slow, by the time we got there, everybody was ungeared, right? So I took off my helmet and put it, and then I didn't see Gary. And you know how you always see Gary, right? When there's action, when there's work, when people are tidying up, you always see Gary. But I didn't see Gary. Something was up. I looked around and I said, "Where's Gary?" And Jared said, "He's in this car. He can't walk." I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, he tore something." I was like, "Oh." And I literally, I said, "Oh shit." So, and I have an oil pouch with me. I have an emergency oil pouch with me. Eric always made me carry an emergency oil pouch wherever we go. So I had in my emergency pouch, I had helichrysum, sacred frankincense, lemongrass, panaway, copaiba, and highest potential, I think. So I said, "Oh shit." And he was in the driver's seat. And I walked up there. He was sitting on the driver's seat with his legs out. And Jared said, and I remember Jared saying, "He's going to drive back." I said, "What?" "Yeah, he said he's going to drive back." I said, "He can't drive back. He's torn something. He can't even walk." "What do you mean?" Because if Gary could not help tidy up, he could not drive. Because I know the guy, right? So I got out there and I said to him, I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Oh, I think I might have tear muscle or something." And I go, "Oh." And he looked like he was in pain. And I know that because I know that Gary is in constant pain. I don't know if any of you know that he's actually in constant pain since his injury back in 1973. Even when he's walking now, he was in constant pain every day. I don't know if you know that. And every night, Mary had to massage his legs with Panaway and Cool Azul. And I don't know if any of you know that he actually made Panaway for himself because he was in so much pain. And he made Cool Azul. And he made Deep Relief and Ortho Ease and Ortho Spot and Agilis and Power Meal. And then what is the other thing for rebuilding muscles? They made those for himself. He didn't make them for anybody else because he was always in pain. So, and I knew that. And for that guy to be not able to walk, something is seriously wrong. So I opened my pouch and I said, "I've got some oils here, see if," and I took it out and he goes, and so he grabbed my oil pouch, right? He grabbed my oil pouch and he was like, "Oh, let's see, what do you have here?" So it was like fumbling through and and I remember, so I'm gonna pretend that I'm him, right? So he looked, "What do you have here?" "Oh, lemongrass." And he said, "Oh, Panaway." And he said, "This used to be my go-to oil." He opened it up and then he threw some on his shin and he rubbed it on. And then he said, what else do you have? Oh, and I said, lemongrass for your ligament, just in case. He opened it and he threw it on, and he threw some on. He actually, this was how he put oils on. He took it out and then he went like this. Oh, there's a lot actually. And then he rubbed it on, right? And then he took out helichrysum. So I had helichrysum, and then I said helichrysum. And he goes, oh, but this is expensive. I have my own. So he leaned backwards, he leaned across the chair, and he opened his jacket pocket, and he took out a bottle of helichrysum. And then he said, I get it cheaper than you. And I'm like, please. So he got his helichrysum, and he started putting it on. And that guy had helichrysum, and he didn't put it on. And he put it on, and then I said, and then what else did I have? I had cobaiba, I had panaway. He put sacred frankincense, and they put it on. And then the last one was highest potential. He took it out, and then he goes, what's this? I said, it's highest potential. He took it out, he looked at it, and he smiled. And he smiled this knowing smile. And I don't know, for those of you who are listening in, highest potential was Gary's favorite oil. He wore it every day. He put it on every day, and he put it on every morning and every night. And he always had it with him. And he took it out, and he smiled and looked at me, and he smiled this knowing smile, and I smiled back at him. Sort of like, I know this is your favorite oil. And he was sort of like telling me that this is my favorite oil and you have it with you all the time. And he didn't, you know. Oh my God, I'm so proud of myself. And he did this, and he took it out, and he went like this, and he sniffed it. And I could see his face relax. And that was, that was the time when I felt like, of all the things that he's done for all of us, I wonder how many people really had the privilege to serve him. And I had that privilege. It was, I don't know what to say. I think you guys get it. So anyway, and then I said, after you've put all the oils on, and he said, oh, I'm already feeling better, right? And I said, but still, you're not driving. You have to let them drive. He goes, but I'm okay. I goes, no. I said, you're injured. You can't fire me, so you have to listen to me. And they don't want you to drive either, but you can fire them. So they're not telling you this, but I am. And he goes, okay. So I looked at Jarrett and I go, Gary's not driving. Come pick him up. Put him next to the chair, like to the next to the driver's seat. And they ran over, and then they had to carry Gary on their shoulder and bring him to the other side of the car. So that was how bad he was, right? So anyway, we drove back down. He said, Joanne, come to Tabiona with us. So I went to Tabiona with him, and that was the last photo. And I don't know where everybody else was. They must have left or something. I don't know where everybody else was. Kevin was there. Jarrett was there. I don't know. So it was just us. And maybe they were staying the night. I don't know. It was just me and Gary and Eric and Jacob. And he was standing there. He was like limping, but by now he could walk. And he was sort of limping. And he was like, Joanne, you got to look through this. I want to bring I'll bring a tour. I'll bring you to look around. I'm like, I can walk. You don't have to bring this tour. Sit down. I said, you just injured yourself. And then he goes, you have to look at that room. You have to look at that room. So I went to the room, and there was this mural on the wall. Oh, I should have shown that photo. With a guy dressed like Gary, pulling with horses and pulling logs out of the woods. And this house, this Tabiona, this ranch, everything was there when Gary bought it. So that mural was already on the wall when Gary bought the house. But that mural looked exactly like Gary. It was amazing. Anyway, so I brought myself a tour, and then I went on, and then I sat next to him, and I said to him, and I thought, I really want to do something. He's in so much pain. And I said, hey, you know what? Oh no, I actually didn't have cobaiba with me back then. I didn't have cobaiba in my bag. And I said to him, hey, you know what? If you have cobaiba, maybe I can make you can I say this?
You can say whatever you want to say.
telling a story. So I said, oh, you know what? If you have cobaiba, maybe I can make you a morphine bomb. Because I'm sure he had, like, because I have frankincense and helichrysum in my, like, I have frankincense and balsam fir in my bag. And he goes, oh, you know what? I have a better idea. Go to my bathroom and find a bottle of frankincense and helichrysum and bring it out. And go to the fridge and take out, let me think, 60 ml, I think. 180 ml. No. And pour out 180 ml Mindwise. So, and then he turned to Jacob and asked Jacob to pour out the Mindwise, to take out the Mindwise from the fridge. So I went to the bathroom and I opened the sink bottom and I started looking through his oils and I couldn't find the helichrysum. I could only find the frankincense, and it was in a mineral essence bottle with the frankincense label, you know, with the red frankincense label. It was in a dropper, you know, in a mineral essence bottle. And not in a mineral essence bottle, but, you know, in that kind of bottle. And then, but I couldn't find a helichrysum. So I sat there and I had the mineral essence and he poured it out into a glass that was like this, like in a rock glass. He poured out about half a glass of of Mindwise. And then he took the bumper of the bumper bottle and he squirted like, I think 3-4 squirt into the Mindwise. And I said, hey, I couldn't find the helichrysum, but you know what? I have a bottle here. And my bottle was new and I was going to open it. And he said, no, but it's really expensive for you. I said, what? Come on. I said, what are you talking about? You saved my life. I mean, you changed my life in ways that nobody else could have done. And you're talking to me about an $84 bottle of oil? Come on, are you serious? And I said, besides, I bought it with my commission check. So I opened it and I was about to drop. So he said he wanted 80 drops of frankincense and 80 drops of helichrysum in that 180 ml of Mindwise, okay? So I opened the helichrysum and I was about to drop it and I was like, and then I was about to start dropping and counting and I'm like, oh, forget it. I opened the orifice and I poured the whole bottle in. I swirled it and I gave it to him and he drank it. And then I got some water and because I got him warm water, I remember, because he looked really cold. And I got some warm water and I poured the warm water in and I swirled it and I said, don't waste the oil in the glass. And he drank up. So he was like this little good kid, right? And I felt I really wanted to be able to serve him again because that was such a privilege to be able to help him because of all the things that he's done for us. So anyway, and then I took the photo over there. And I think that was the last solo photos that I've taken with him. Yeah. How long have I been talking?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's actually really something to just sit here and listen to you talk. I'm like there's so many stories and clearly memory. Even just you've just shared something that I'm sure everybody's like copied it down.
I'm not telling everybody, please do not drink a whole bottle of helichrysum.
Now only
Please
Gary
do not.
drinks stuff like that. But
Okay, no, please do not.
but I'm also being mindful of time, so we're at 10:50 right now. But I do know some people might have questions. I don't know if you have more pictures or are you okay to take questions?
I'm okay to take questions. I actually only have like 3 more photos that I took in the Northern Lights farm just this past March, okay? The White House, not the White House, the white colored house is our distillery. Mm-hmm. And so the distillery is facing the north and the back, okay, so you see on the right side of the photo is the north. Uh-huh. The direction that we're facing is the east. Yeah. And no, the direction that we're facing is the west, and we have our back to the east. So our distillery actually can see everything from the northern lights to the sunset to the sunrise. Okay? And these are all our trees. And there's something that I really, really need to tell everybody about Gary and his plans for this farm. And the reason why I put these photos in is because of this. So, Kai, you were there in 2014 when we were in our diamond retreat in France. He just bought, it was in August, he just bought the land in Fort Nelson, and he was about to build the farm. And he showed us an aerial photo of the land. And I remember I saw just trees, and he had this parts where he drew out. I'm sure you remember. Yeah. I remember very vividly. And I remember him standing there and talking to us about it. And he said, I'm going to build a distillery here. I'm going to build a da-da-da here. There's going to be the da-da-da-da. And I'm going to build this visitor center here. And I sat there and I thought, why do you want to build a visitor center there? Who is going to go to that part of Canada up north? We don't know where, freezing in the freezing cold. Who would want to go? And that was 5-6 years ago. And I have since been to that farm 5 times. The first time was 2017. And I have been to that farm 3 times last year, I think. And I know why he wants to build a visitor center there. Because it's a place like no other. Because it sits on it's a 10 minutes drive from a little town called Fort Nelson. A little town of only about 1,000 people now. There used to be 2,000 people there back in 2017. It used to be a very busy little town with oil and gas industry. And they've now moved, the US companies have now moved out of that little town. So only about 1,000 people are left, but it's a town of people who have the purest heart and the most amazing friendship, most amazing people. And the people who work at our distillery are the most loving, caring, compassionate group of people that really, really resonate with the company. And that town can hold up to 20,000 people in one go. And, but I think the maximum we've had on that farm was 100 people, 100 and so people now currently. And that's why I don't even know what I'm trying to say there. And so this photo here was taken in March. It was in the middle of the Northern Lights Festival. And the farm manager has plans for us to pull us in, not snowmobile, but they call it, it's very similar to snowmobile. Suddenly I forgot the name. So they pull us in sleds in the middle of the night. And know that this photo was taken, I think, at 1 o'clock in the morning, okay, or 2. Mm-hmm. And they put us out in the total darkness, and we could see all the stars in the sky. And they built a campfire for us to wait for the Northern Lights to come out. And I took this photo. Our naked eyes could not see the lights. But when I took this photo, I could see the lights, the Northern Lights. And in this photos, we could barely see the Northern Lights. And that bright spot in the middle of the photo is our distillery. So this photo was also taken in the middle of the field. And can you imagine the energy of that field where it absorbs Northern Lights even when your eyes cannot see them? And when your eyes can see them, it would be very similar to, sorry. Oh, shoot. I wanted to go back and show you that other photo. How do I? So this one. So this was when we can see it our naked eye. And I actually did not filter this photo. This was the original of the photo. I did not have to filter it. I did not have to adjust any of the lighting or the brightness. This was physically what we saw. And you can actually, in person, you can actually see more purple and red. So this was the place that Gary wanted to build a visitor center. Because a lot of people who would love to see the Northern Lights, or people who actually did not even know about Young Living, could go there and see the Northern Lights and immerse in that amazing field of energy, of the loving energy of the black spruce trees. And I can talk about black spruce all day long, like I did a workshop on black spruce, so I'm not going to do that now. And you know what? Young Living, it's a corporate company. And back then, and now, if we want corporate to build a visitor center, we have to give them a reason why. And last year I was talking to Corey Howden. Actually, Lauren and Todd talked about them yesterday. Corey Howden is the farm manager of the Northern Lights Farm. And last year, I think it was October, I was talking to Corey on the phone, talking about the Northern Lights Festival. And I said to him, hey, did you know that Gary wanted to build a visitor center on the farm? And he paused for a second and he said, yeah, the blueprints, Mary gave me the blueprints last week. She said that the blueprints were in Gary's desk. It was something that he never finished. And I am hoping that you can finish it, Corey. So I made a promise to myself. I'm going to help bring people to the farm so that we can show corporate that it is worth investing a visitor center over there. Just like, and I didn't know if you know that, back in the days when Gary was still here, when he wanted to build a farm, he actually used all the money in his own pocket to build farms. The money that he earned from Young Living, the salary that he earned, he built the farm with that money. He didn't actually needed any approval because it was his money. But now that he's not here anymore, we need approval from corporate to build anything. And we need to show them that it's worth investing in. And I don't know if any of you have heard that story about Gary building the Mona farm, the one at Salt Lake City, like next to Salt Lake City, our headquarters farm, the Mona farm where thousands of people go visit every year now from all over the world at convention, except this year. When he was building that farm, I'll tell you a little story, and I put that story in my book. I tell you a little story about that farm. And okay, let me try to rephrase myself. So for those of you who have been to that farm, you know that there's this little visitor center where it used to be like a museum, but now they've moved everything away. It sort of looks a little bit weird now. But there's a terrace outside the store, the product store. And one time, Mary was helping Gary build that farm, and they brought out sleeping bags, and they were lying there looking at the sky at night. And Gary said to Mary, I think this must have been 1990, I don't know, 25 years ago, 1995, something like that, 25 years ago. And Gary lay there in the little house and said to Mary, you wait and see. One day people will come from all over the world and see what we're doing because they want to know what we're doing. And you know what? So many people were there 25, 30 years ago, and everybody said that Gary was crazy. And this is the thing that Gary was like, if you say that I'm crazy, if you say I can't do it, I'm going to do it, right? That's just how he was. And so 25 years later, we flock all over the world to go see that farm. And I certainly hope that if we can manage to build this visitor center in Fort Nelson 25 years later, and I know I'm going to live to see that day because I'm only 49 and I plan to live until I'm 120 because I don't plan to be snowmobiling every day and risking my life. Now that Gary isn't here, nobody was going to push me to do things that will risk my life, although I might decide to jump off a plane next year and do skydiving sometime before I turn 60. And so I know that I'm going to live to see the day because I'm only going to be 74, 25 years later, that people will flock from all over the world to see this Northern Lights farm. And I want to be part of it. I want to be part of the reason why, and I want to be part of the people who make this happen. And please, please, please help me make this happen. I promised myself I was going to bring 800 people from all over the world to that farm this year in March. Because of COVID, the day after I arrived, we had to do social distancing. Can I talk about Gary talking to me?
You have a quick 2 minutes, don't.
Okay, well then, no, I'll say it for next time. It's not a 2-minute story.
You can do it. 2 minutes.
Okay, all right, okay. So okay, I've always felt that I can talk to Gary anytime now because he's no longer trapped in his physical body. I can reach out and, change the channel and I can talk to him. So story number one, I have two though. Story number one, Cyprus. Guy's gonna kill me. So story number one, Cyprus story, I had to vet something for corporate about the Cyprus, how long it's being distilled. And I remember it was in one of the EODR, and I have like 5 different EODR versions, right? And I had to really find the information very quickly. So I pulled out one EODR, I couldn't find it. I pulled out the next EODR, and then I said to myself, and then suddenly I realized I could just ask Gary where it is, and he'd tell me. So I sat there and I looked at my book, and I said, Gary, tell me where it is. I need to find it now. So I looked at the back of the indexes and find Cyprus, and obviously there are like 50 different entries of Cyprus in the EODR. And I looked at, is this one? I turned the page, and there it was in the little corner of that page, Cyprus and how long we need to distill it for. So I got that information. So Gary gave me that information. And then the second Gary story was, so I was in Fort Nelson. It was the day of the opening ceremony. It was the second day after I arrived, or the third day after I arrived. It was just that morning when everybody was announcing social distancing and corporate announced social distancing. But we had people flying from Asia to Fort Nelson. Some of them are on their way. Some of them are on the way from the US, right? And so what are we going to do? Are we going to close this festival? And then we have musicians coming up. And so I was sitting there with Corey and Kathleen, who helped Corey organize the festival. And we were sitting here, and Corey was like, oh my God, what are we going to do with all these people who are coming? I said, don't worry, it's all going to work out. What about those concerts? What about the theater? Now we can't use the theaters. Now we don't know who's going to come. I said, you know what, don't worry about it. It's all going to work out. And so he was sitting there planning. And I was sitting there, I was like, you know what, let's ask Gary. Let's ask Gary what we should do. What would Gary do? And Corey would say, Gary would totally keep going. I said, yeah, Gary would totally keep going. And then, so he was talking to me about the musicians and where they can play. Maybe we can just bring the musicians into the distillery. Maybe we can just have the dance party in the distillery. Maybe we can just have all the performance in the distillery and all the classes in the distillery. I said, yeah, why not? Yeah, and the musicians on the concerts, I said, and then suddenly I could literally hear Gary's voice said, that's the kind of party that I like, in his voice. And I said to Corey, I said, Gary just told me that's the kind of party that he likes. He wants the musicians to be on the farm. What better way to distill oils than to play music to them, right? So that's what we did. We had the musicians in the farm, and it worked out beautifully. It was a cozy little thing. We had not at the same time over 50 people, so we stayed with the social distancing rules, and we had different times over the period of the week. Different people went into the distillery, and it just worked out perfectly. It was cozy, it was nice, and we had time meeting each other just like the old times when everything just started. So it was really beautiful. So that was the story that I wanted to say. So, yeah. And I do want to talk a little bit about this book.
I want you to talk about this, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I put nearly everything that I've learned from Gary in this book. I don't like to promote myself. I don't want to promote this book, but Mary keeps telling me that I need to. I should. And Mary has actually helped me verify a lot of the stories, because the Ecuador story, how Gary started the farm, how Gary built this farm, how Gary built the Fort Nelson farm, how Gary built some of the things about how Gary started the Mona farm, they're all in there. All my winter harvest experience, all my experience on how I started, how the Young Living Hong Kong market started, the challenges that we had, how we overcame it, and all the things that I've learned from Gary, most of them I put in the book. So it's a very easy read. If you like, you can get it from Life Science Publishing. I just thought that it would be something that would help a lot of people if they really want to know about Gary. And I've got a lot of feedback from this book that it really helped them know Gary. And a lot of them now, after reading the book, understand why our products are so amazing. Because I can talk like all day and all week and about Young Living. But
I was just going to say, I think people wanted to see a face. So, no, but, a couple of thoughts crossed my mind. So first thing first, I want to say that, hang on, let me just quickly check on this thing. Yeah, so first thing first, I want to say that everyone, if you guys can get hold of Joanne's book, please do. I am very certain she has many more stories that she's not had the opportunity to fill us up tonight. And I can guarantee you, Joanne, a lot of people are actually just sitting here. Like, I'm scrolling through the comments and people are like, yeah, we can sit here and listen, we really can. But I also really think that it would be so powerful for them to have the book, read it, digest it, share it with their teams, and really get into that spirit of it. And
Definitely.
how, as you were describing that last story in distillery and hearing Gary's voice, I mean, it's like super vivid. Like I got the chills just listening to, even though you told me this on the day we were doing preparations. But what struck me was that this is the kind of life Gary always had, right? It's like, things happen, things change all the time. It's not going to always be the perfect way that we want it to be. And then you were right there when it was just smack in the middle of this whole COVID thing unraveling. People didn't know what to do, musicians coming. How do we continue the celebration or do we not? And in all of this, I thought that was the perfect story, because in all of that, that you knew his heart and that you knew how this is all going to work out. Like, you guys are sitting there with Corey and you guys were like just facing it head on. Like, here's what we're going to do. And to even hear that confirmation from him, I thought that was super beautiful. And I also do want to say that Joanne really has a heart to make this happen. For everyone that's been listening, I saw Joanne's other video when you were actually you were on the farm. You did a live video. I don't know when exactly it was. I actually saw that live video when you were talking about building this visitor center. So I did catch as much detail at that point in time. And I do know that many people who have been to Winter Harvest, it's just something that you have to experience, right? But then once you experience it, you realize why he himself wants so many of us to actually be there in nature, be there with the plants and really feel this.
I do have something else that I want to add to the harvest, is that the most amazing thing with Fort Nelson comparing to all the other farms that I've been to was that the close proximity to a town that can host so many people, that have hotels, that have restaurants, that have grocery stores, that have little places that you can actually cook and like live a life. Instead of, for example, Mona, it's like a 2 hours drive from everywhere, right? Ecuador is like an hour's drive from the town, or 2 hours, an hour and a half drive. Like, every one of our farms is really far from civilization. And well, Mona is not actually that far. Mona is probably like half an hour, but still, it's quite far. But Fort Nelson is like 15 minutes away. And the most amazing thing that we've done is we've brought non-members with us to go see the Northern Lights. And they ended up being members because of that process that you're going to experience, getting the floral water, seeing these people who love what they do, participating and stomping on the cookers, and spending a week together and experiencing the Northern Lights. You will not be able to resist these oils. You will not be able to resist why this camaraderie and this love, because you can feel it. And we can't put words into any of these feelings because it would be an insult to the feelings themselves, I think. So I urge you all to just, gather people, to rally up people to go see the Northern Lights. And you know what? Every winter when I was there, I've always seen it. And they have this amazing, oh my God, I can talk about it all day. But yeah, so bring your non-member friends, bring your members' friends.
And who knows, right? Maybe it's the Asian guys, this part of the world, that's going to make this little dream come alive. I'm waiting for people to actually see if they have questions, but I have one question for you, and it's perfect that you're being seen right now. I have one question for you. So I kind of like you to, I didn't even ask this of any of the other speakers, but because you spoke about how much, especially when we're doing preparation for this, you spoke about that moment when you sat the truck and you were really calling out to Gary and just talking to him. My question for you right now is, if Gary was right here, right now, and he had just one simple message for whoever is listening to this, what would that be?
Okay, give me a moment. Well, he would tell everybody to keep oiling, keep trusting, and keep doing. I think it has a lot of meaning in it, what he said, because only through using our oils, we can grow. Because it's a really great tool for us to overcome challenges and grow ourselves. And when we have grown ourselves and when we do not go out and share, when we do not go out and get out of our comfort zone and action and do the things, we cannot be the best of us, Only through growing, only through doing, only through you doing it, you can grow. And the oils would be the best tool for you to help you keep moving and keep learning and keep growing and keep sharing. That's what he would tell everybody to do.
Wow. Thank you, Joanne. I'm trying to catch my breath. Yeah, it's been an amazing week just listening to everyone. And it's amazing to have you with us on Saturday, telling us so many stories, and having us all just remember Gary. Remember how much he loves the farm. Remember how much he wants us to be all connected to this one source that he's always believed in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
very grateful. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in, and I want to thank Kai again for doing this for the whole week and bringing us all in. We will need to keep doing it. If we don't do it, somebody else has to keep doing it, and everybody has to go to a farm. Everybody has to keep talking about the oils. Tell everybody about it, because you have benefited from it, and you don't tell your friends about it. You're doing yourself and them a disservice, and doing Young Living a disservice, and doing Gary a disservice.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Well, thank you to everyone who's been, it's amazing just watching how many people have come in and streamed in from all over the world. People even from our Silver Sister group, I just coming in, listening. I think it's brought back a lot of memories for a lot of people, and it's helped anchored a lot of us again to just the whole purpose of that Gary has always had, and what this whole entire company is about. And like I said right from the beginning, I think if you guys don't know yet how different Young Living is as an essential oil company, get down to a farm. You need to get into a farm, and as Joanne would say, work so damn hard that you have the plants, you have the balsam fir, you have whatever it is in your underwear, you're sweating it out, and you would then have the first-hand experience that Gary has always wanted each one of us to experience. So thank you, Joanne, for doing this for us. All that precious time. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the people tuning in. It was supposed to close tonight, this series. But yeah, I guess spirit-led. We decided we would ask one more person, and this person would be a very special person to Gary as well, that we felt would be perfect to just really close off this entire week of sharing. So this session that we've surprised ourselves with as well is going to happen tomorrow. This is Singapore, Hong Kong time, Asian time, 12 p.m. We're going to do this one last interview series, tribute to Gary, live here on this Facebook page. So wherever you guys are at, please join us. And we would love to see you guys, talk to you guys, and have you be with us together again. So good night from this side of the world. Good morning to everybody else. We'll see you guys very, very soon.